As you start to poll, CISOs and others across the industries and start to get a line of thought process reconciled, what are your predictions for the next 3 to 5 years in the context of network security and AI? Do you expect some things to stay the same or change radically there?
Yeah, no, I think as we look to frame this conversation, my prediction is a return to basics. So as we frame this idea of governance of AI, I think AI, first of all, it starts with organizational governance. How do we set up our governance, our people, our policies, our procedures? Then as we start breaking it down, once again, it's not overly complicating it, it's going to the simple. So as we think about AI, what is AI? It's how do we manage the data governance? How do we manage the AI governance? And then, of course, how do we manage the governance of those models? And so as we go to this theme of simplifying things, one of the core things about AI that we get is this concern about the data. And so as I look at what I see in the future, my prediction for the future is this whole Gen AI is going to put an increased focus on our organization's critical IP and our critical data. So what the heck does this mean? I see this return to security fundamentals, right? And as we talk about security fundamentals, this is IDC's 4 new control points of digital transformation, right? Because before we talked about network, and we always understand the network is always important. We start talking about things like the endpoint, right? Because everything's encrypted. You got to do things at the endpoint. The identity, the application, and then of course the data. This return to fundamentals, I think the simplification is where I see the organizations going. Now, as it relates to Gen AI, so you're like, well, Frank, how does that apply? How does the fundamentals apply? Well, Gen AI is an AI workload. We've been protecting AI workloads for a long time. What do? We start off with what are the guiding principles? We talk about governance. We talk about secure infrastructure. And then we get back to the basics. But the basics is just a little bit different in Gen AI. We talk about the network, the system, the application processes, right? That first pillar. We talk about the API and the endpoint. We talk about the application security. We talk about identity authorization. We talk about the data, right? It's this return to the basics. And of course, we validate, we do responsible AI. But I think the core that we're talking about here is that sometimes we overly complicate things, right? So for me, what do I see in the future? I see a renewed focus on the data and protecting the data, but once again, a return to those fundamentals of security, of which network security is clearly a core linchpin moving forward as we look to implement protections for Gen AI.